impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact. Walk in his ways. Tune in to get your mind right. Tune in to let your soul grow. We already hit the top charts. Let's be really ready. Let's go. Walk in his ways, impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact. Walk in his ways. Brother Jackson be the host. NC co-host. Coach co-host. Prime time, co-host. Walk in his ways, impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact. Walk in his ways. Tune in to get your mind right. Tune in to let your soul grow. We already hit the top charts. So if you're really ready, let's go. Now wind it up, now wind it up. Don't stop, put the time aside. Don't stop, put the time aside. Go wind it up, now wind it up. Go wind it up, go wind it up. Go, don't stop till the time is up. Go, don't stop till the time is up. Go, walk in his ways, impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact voice. Walk in his ways, impact. Walk in his ways. Tune in to get your mind right. Tune in to let your soul grow. We already hit the top charts. So if you're really ready, let's go.
Good evening to everyone. Welcome to another edition of Walking This Way's Impact Wars podcast. I'm your host, Freeman Jackson Jr. I'm broadcasting right now from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We thank everybody for tuning in, hanging out with us tonight. Today, of course, is Wednesday, October the 12th, 2022. And we just thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight. We're very talking about a very touchy, a very topic that everybody is afraid to talk about, afraid to address. And we're going to be talking about domestic violence. We know domestic violence runs rapidly throughout our country, our community. We see it every day. You see the reports every day. You see the deaths behind domestic violence. That's something that no man, no woman should be able to go through or experience in their life. And we have people who have survived domestic violence. And kudos to those who have survived, got out of that toxic environment. That's nobody should have to go through, because love don't hurt nobody. Love don't give you a black eye. Love don't beat you down mentally. Love don't sexual assault you. None of that stuff. That's not love. So we really very excited tonight with our guest tonight. She's the founder of the nonprofit organization Speak Our Truth. I'm very excited and very thankful that she took time out. Be scared to be. Shout out to Coach She for booking this interview tonight here on the podcast. And I just want my guest to go ahead and introduce herself to those that's tuning in right now. We are live streaming on Facebook Live, of course. So we encourage everybody to like, share, comment, share the video, because we are talking about domestic violence. Either you've been a victim yourself or you know someone who's going through that right now. So this is the time to share it, get the help that you need. So I want my guest to go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deleashawn Bordeaux, and I am the founder of I got to get it out. I am the founder of Speak Our Truth, a nonprofit for survivors of sexual assault. I am a victim of sexual assault, but I'm also a victim of domestic violence. So I use my voice to share my story with the hope of impacting others to either find the strength to walk away if they're ready, or just get help if they need it. Being an advocate has been hard, but one of the most rewarding things ever, because sometimes you just need to be in the room with somebody who's been through it. That way you can share your story. So I provide a safe space for survivors to share their stories, for us to bring awareness, to learn about it, and to hopefully one day continue the conversation without being uncomfortable.
And I'm glad that you are addressing this and you're bringing this up in our generation. Well, we know this is an ongoing topic of discussion. We know this is an ongoing activity that's taking place in someone's household, because you never know what someone's going through right now. Someone may be getting sexual abuse right now, physical abuse, mental abuse. We don't know what's going on inside behind somebody's closed door. But as you being a survivor yourself, and to be able to come to the forefront and not to be ashamed or be afraid to talk about this, we know that this is a very touchy topic for some people. Some people don't want to talk about it. Some people are ashamed to talk about it. You know, when we think about domestic violence, we think about, okay, men being women, but you have men as being abused as well. And that's very seldom though ever hear. You may hear it, but if a guy called the police and say, hey, my girlfriend or my wife assaulted me, they'll probably sit there and laugh at the situation. Right. Oh, you a man, why you let her do you like that? But this is a situation that nobody should have to go through. And I know you have mentioned in your bio that you are a survivor of domestic violence, of course. How did that experience happen for you that you end up becoming a survivor in that type of environment?
Yes. So I was in, well, let me start off with the beginning, because there's one thing I think that a lot of people don't acknowledge. I was also, we call it getting whoopings. I'm trying to phrase this the right way. We call it getting whoopings, but you know, our generation was more of that generation where the whoopings came with extension cords and things like that. Every time I got in trouble for the smallest things, then, you know, there was some type of punishment. This is why I don't believe in whoopings. Y'all gonna be mad at me, but I do believe that kind of is what molded me into being okay with being abused later on. I was getting beat then, so what's wrong with somebody beating me now? Not to mention, I was a sexual assault victim at the age of 14 by a family member. And so when that family member is in the household, well, now I'm dealing with being beat, and I'm also dealing with the fact that you're sexually assaulting me. When I leave that household, I don't care where I go. I'm just going to go to the next place that I feel is safe. I don't understand that there's red flags and that these are things that shouldn't be happening, because this is what I've been molded to believe, right? So I got into a relationship. We were in and out 6 years. And the craziest thing is the signs were there. Their temper was crazy. The joking, what we consider to be jokes, would be things like, keep playing with me and I'll run us into the back of this truck. Yeah, that's all he and ha, but understand that some of that joking is also seriousness, and they will get rid of you. They don't care about you. And so, you know, we took some time off and we got back together. And I remember just the first time we were in the car talking, and it was the way I worded something. And I remember just out the blue, I was smacked across my face, and it was like, well, wait a minute. What happened? But I didn't say anything, nor did I think to leave. I was like, oh, okay, that was nothing. I've been through that. I can handle that. Again, it had happened in my childhood. And so for 6 years on and off, I went through things of sometimes them just being angry for no reason, and I'm getting hit. The verbal abuse was, the crazy thing is the verbal abuse wasn't as bad as the actual physical abuse. They spent a lot of time bringing me up. There were times where they would say like the meaning thing in an undertone, but the verbal abuse was not nearly as bad as the physical. It was just when they wanted to. If my child was in the household, however, she never knew. So if that person was if my child go take a bath, that person would use that time. Hey, this baby ain't looking. I have that opportunity to do what I'm going to do. And so I didn't see nothing wrong. I was like, I love them. At least they're not taking advantage of me sexually. I've experienced this as a child. I'm okay with this. But I had to start paying attention to what it was doing to me as a person. It was affecting me in a lot of ways. I was mean. Where I didn't have power at home, I was trying to control and maintain power everywhere else. And when you become that person, nobody can tell you anything, because you're always going to be combative, because I need to win somewhere in my life. And that's what I started experiencing. A lot of that happening. But the biggest thing was I went to therapy. And the craziest thing is he told me to go to therapy, but he didn't tell me to go to therapy for him. He told me to go to therapy because I was crazy and I needed to deal with my childhood. And sure enough, him recommending me to go to therapy for my childhood is what ended up making me walk away from him, because I started to learn who I was and how I slept on them red flags. I'm not going to say I slept. I completely ignored them. I seen them, and I ignored them. And so it really just led me into walking away. But even as I began to walk away, it was still that draw there. It was still that connection there that I wanted back. So there was times when I went back. And to be honest, I think the only reason, if I had to really, really really be honest, I think what made me walk away is that they walked away from me for a long period of time, and eventually I found strength through that time. Had they not walked away then, I probably would have stayed because I was comfortable.
Yeah, and I know that's tough for anybody to go through, experience, especially being at a young age. It all started for you. How was it? I mean, did you ever, I know, find different places to go? I know you hate going home, or as just the connotation of the being abused from physical to sexual. I know that's tough for any individual to go through, especially at a young age.
It is. I wanted to, but when you're dealing with, I would say certain, matter of fact, let's be real. When you're dealing with certain people of power, my father was a pastor. I could say what's happening, but are they going to believe me? When I spoke out at, 25? People still thought I was lying. So I have to ask myself, well, would they have believed me when I was younger? Of course not, because there's no way this person who created this image for themselves and have gained these type of followers are going to get them people to believe different. It doesn't even matter. The crazy thing is when you look at it, a lot of people like that are narcissistic by nature. Therefore, they're mean to people around them and they still don't acknowledge it or say something. They still are protected and cover them. So I wanted to leave. I wish I had the strength. In my head and behind closed doors, I was tough. Like, oh, one day I'm going to kill you and ain't nobody going to say nothing. But when it's face to face, it's like, I would rather back down because I don't want you to hit me in my face. I don't want you to slap me. I would rather just act like, I don't exist if I can. That's how I try to live life, not existing. I stayed in my room, didn't want to come out. I would go visit other family and just not say nothing. It was happening. Oh, okay, of course, in my eyes, this isn't happening to anyone else in the world. This is just something I'm going through. I have to live through it and accept it. And that's how I maintain. No matter how much I wanted to walk away and run away, I wasn't going to go nowhere. And then I was always taught, if you leave, I can sniff your blood and bring you back. That is the craziest thing.
And that's just so tough that I know fear. We think about the abuse is fear. So when the victim is being victimized, we know the one who's doing all this pain will get into your mind mentally, manipulate you, now strip you from everything, so you don't know where to go, who to turn to because of being afraid. And that's tough for anybody to go through. And I know as a child, you didn't expect that. Like, hey, this is someone who's supposed to love me.
My protector.
Your protector, take care of me and do that. And just put on this front like everything is okay. And it's not okay. And we know a lot of people are going through that. We put this mask on. And then, but behind closed door, that's when the real us come out. The real you is there. When we leave out the door, we come with the cliches, put the mask on, when to say, how to say, fresh clothes, like everything all good, everything hunky-dory. And before you know it, right back to the violence. And I know you had started this organization, Speak Our Truth. So I know this organization was birthed out of your survival. And how long has the organization been going on? How can people get in touch with you with the organization?
Yes, it started in 2018. It started as a blog. My therapist recommended me just, releasing it, using that as a form of therapy. Start releasing it, start writing how you feel. So I started off as a blog. I wanted to do more. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really like this story, so I was going to really tell my whole testimony. So I knew I wanted to do more, but I didn't know how. So I did turn it into a 501c3. And in 2020, I was ready to have my first event. And as we all know, Sexual Assault Awareness Month is in April. The pandemic happened in March. So I tried those first 2 weeks. I'm still going to have something. We all have faith. We was just inside for 2 weeks. And I remember everything shut down. And I was like, it's not meant for me to do this. But as I was off working from home, I had an amazing job. And God kept telling me, it's time for you to take it further. It's time for you to take it further. And so I kept saying, okay, God, I'm not going to really do that. You didn't already shut you shut it down with the world. I'm not going to do it. June 19th, Juneteenth, 2020, I lost my job. And at that time, I had a decision to make. Am I going to go full force into my job? My career and what I want to do, or am I going to take this option? And I kid you not, at that time, I was like, I'm going to focus fully on this. I don't know how to start. I don't know where to start, but I want to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So I went full-fledged. And since then, God has just really led me to the people I need to be connected to. I come across survivors. I come across advocates. I come across people who just want to be able to share their stories and tell, and I give them that space. So I'm thankful for the pandemic as much as I hated the situations we were put in, because it really put me in a place to help others.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're doing the work that you're doing. It takes a special individual as yourself to do this type of work, because everybody cannot do this type of work. And the stories you hear on a regular basis, I know they're very touching.
Oh,
I know they could bring tears to your eyes. This is very emotional experience for anybody to go through. Just the abuse aspect when it comes to the relationships. Everybody wants to be in a relationship. You meet this great guy. You think he's great. Say the right thing, do the right thing, until that particular moment you say something, and he strikes you. Who expects that to happen? And I know before we got into the air, we was talking, you mentioned something about trauma. I know guys deal with trauma. In the book that I have read called The Laws of Human Nature, it talks about how people deal with stuff back in their childhood, which is true. But we never get the help that we need to address these situations.
Right.
So when it comes to your working with these clients, which ones have been the most, hardest to deal with? The men, women? I know women, y'all talk about a lot of stuff. Guys want to put their heart shell in, don't want let their pride go, but scared to address these issues when it comes to the significant other, the opposite sex, when it comes to the women.
You know what? My answer is not going to be what you expect it to be. For one, I can say being in this field, my male friends, look, shout out every time I can, shout out to my boys, because they ask me questions. They don't care. We have conversations. They don't mind. I have friends. I have one friend who was out the dating scene for a while. He went on a date. He called me. He was like, I'm going out with this girl. I was like, okay, so tell me this, and what do you do with this, and what? And he was like, I know, don't do this, don't that. And I was like, I'm proud of you, because I can assure you know what to do and what not to do, and you're not crossing that line. And if you are, then that's intentional, and that's a different story than someone who is uneducated on what sexual assault is.
Right.
That's another story. But these are the things. But when it comes to who's the hardest to work with, to be honest, it would be the people who don't want to do the work. It's a difference between, I would say, between not being ready and not wanting to do the work. Some people are not ready, but they were forced into either saying something or getting help. And therefore, when you're not forced, you're still going to have that stubborn attitude. So you're not going to be ready to move forward. You're not at that place yet. But it's the people who reach out for help, but then they still don't want to do the work. They come to coaching, and they come to coaching, or they go to therapy, and you give them assignments and things to try to look at, and they just don't do it. And I'm a person, I'm not here to accept your money. I'm here to really try to see how we can get on this journey together and get you to a stable place. So that means that whatever I'm asking you to do as a coach, I want to actually see you do it for the success of where you're trying to get to. So when you come on a weekly basis and you're not doing anything, you're telling me what's wrong. And, I'm making sure you're in therapy, you're going to therapy and doing this. But when I'm asking you, okay, well, did you try this? Did you try this as we discussed last week? And you're still saying no. Exactly. At that point, it begins to feel like you're wasting your own time and my time. And if you're not ready, it's okay to take a step back until you are.
I agree with you just said on that, because you can only do so much. The old saying is, you can lead a horse to water, can't make him drink. And that's true when it comes to working with individuals. Some could be ready, some not ready. But when you ask these questions, like you said, you don't want to waste your time and they don't want to waste their time. It's like, okay, to the point when I hear people, I hear people on a regular basis, you can tell people, okay, this is what you need to do. They'll say they'll do it. Then talk to them a couple of days later, however scheduled, they still back doing the same thing. And that right there, it irks me a lot. Like, you share this stuff with me, I tell you what to do, I help you along, but then you go right back doing the exact same thing. I take that as that you like this, because help me out with that, because I'm thinking to the point,
it's not that you like it, and it's not even like a lot of my clients, it's not even that they're going back, because a lot of, when it comes to domestic violence, I'm not going to say sexual assault a lot of times is completely different, but when it comes to domestic violence, the reason a survivor or victim goes back is because they're technically not ready. People don't realize how much of a push and a force it is for people to go do something. We see it in the comments every day. Why don't you just leave them? Why don't you go do this? Well, yeah, that's easy to say, but sometimes when you're leaving that person, you feel like you can't live without them. You just don't understand how destructive it is to live with them. And that's a huge deal. But I'm talking about the people who leave and understand that I've left, I have that strength. But past that leaving is additional work to do. It doesn't end because you left.
Right.
You have to start really dealing with the trauma and understanding that you were just a victim. You just came out of a traumatic situation. Your belief within yourself is different. So how do we start working on that? Your belief about relationships are different. But you wonder why, people are so bitter. It's because they're not putting in the work. They're not willing to acknowledge what needs to be acknowledged, that things have changed for you as a person. And you're never going to go back to who you are, nor will you ever be fully healed, because healing is lifelong. But how do you get to a stable place mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, and physically?
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I know you said about putting in the work. Accountability. So it's really more accountability on their part. I know a lot of times you hear people, they blame this person, that person. I know stuff happens, but okay, you get out of it. But it's saying, okay, when they get out of it, so you teach more of them to be more accountable for themselves in order for them not to go back in that situation, like the activities, the work you set out for them to do. Not
even accountable for them not to go back to them for themselves, because it's not an issue of going back. You are really having to change who you are. Mm-hmm. I want you to be accountable for how you see yourself.
Right. Makes sense.
See, how you see yourself is what's going to matter. When I say do the work, start within. You have to go out. This is my slogan for my coaching. We're redefining the beauty that lies beneath the pain. You are covered in pain. You have to remove each level and each surface of that pain to really see who you are at the bottom. But that requires work on your behalf. That doesn't require anything else. And that doesn't even come until you actually have left a situation or a traumatic experience. Because if you haven't even gotten that place to leave, you can't take that journey, because you're still dealing with the devil that's inside of your house or wherever that devil is. This even comes after. I deal with coaching when it comes to people who are in domestic violence. If you're in the midst of being a victim, I don't ever want to say the wrong thing. So I would rather get you to one of my other resources who has the 24/7 crisis hotline and get you there. But when you come to coaching, you have already left that situation and you're ready to grow within yourself. You're ready to change so that you don't continue to attract the same people. You may not go back, but what does it matter that you didn't go back if you go get Bob again, who has the same tendencies and does the same thing?
Yeah, it makes sense. So in other words, you're most helping them, like the Bible say, be born again. So when they come to coaching, it's basically being born again, restarting all over again. Because you got to think about how we grew up. We was never taught to we was never taught to think on our own. Mm-hmm. We were taught to believe in everything else, but we were never taught to have belief in ourselves. We were never taught our value. We were never taught how much worth that we are. We just go along with the emotions, but we never learn these things. And I'm glad that you're talking about this. It's more now in this generation that we see now in 2022. You have different people teaching people, okay, how to love yourself, how to value yourself, learn yourself, especially for the men. I see You got a lot of male coaches out there teaching men, okay, learn about your last name. Put your mission statement together. Put your core values together. See, that's stuff we would never taught growing up. We would never taught, hey, put a mission statement together for your life. Set some goals for your life. We was never taught that now. But now we're being taught that now, and it's a blessing that we are. Just think about if we was taught that back growing up, where would we be at right now?
Let me tell you something. I can't wait to see the next generation, because now that we're having these conversations, when they see there's light at the end of the tunnel, I honestly believe that now, because we're creating safe spaces to talk about sexual assault, domestic violence, mental health, and these people are willing to speak up, especially our new generation. I absolutely love that, and I really pray that we continue to see the numbers decrease in all areas. But I'm going to go back on something you said. You were talking about men. Men, I'm glad to see men starting to step up. I wish more would share their stories out in the open. They find a safe space, and once they find it, they will talk to that person. But I wish they would speak up more, because one thing I was telling a friend, women love to call men hoes, but we really never pay attention to what, I guess you would say, like the dynamic or so of a man. A lot of men have been sexually assaulted and never acknowledged it, because what they've seen it is as a young boy with an older woman. And so they see that as, oh, I bagged me an older woman and I did this and I did that. But really what they did is their body and their mind mentally was not ready for sex. Therefore, you initiated something that wasn't ready. You didn't even fully understand it. And now we have men out here who are on a constant search to scratch an itch that can't be scratched because of what happened to them at a young age. And it's not that our men are hoes, it's that men need help and need to start acknowledging what they've been through so they can learn who they are and go through the same journey as women without being called gay or weak.
Right. And we know that stuff is important. I know you said something about men, well, young boys, guy with an older woman. What about, guys who may experience other guys, or went to that. And a lot of times when a guy may bring it up to a woman that he's interested in, to her, there may be a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Because she'll feel, okay, that means you're gay, whatever, or I don't trust you. Have you dealt with people like that before who say, okay, I was sexually assaulted by the same sex. I like this girl. I want to tell her what happened, but she may not be accepted to it. Because a lot of times people run from different things when you share stuff with them.
It's simple. If she's not accepting of it, she's not the one. If your trauma automatically puts up a red flag that you're struggling with your sexuality because of something you couldn't help, then let's be real, she's not the one. Let's go deeper though. Some men have a hard time accepting that they were assaulted by a man and they still had the reaction. Mm-hmm. Their body can't control what happens. It's natural. It's a natural instinct. And because a man can't deal with that, he may not share it. But no, that does not mean that man is a homosexual. He's not a homosexual unless he's physically attracted to another man. And that's just the bottom line. I think women should be more open, because we're not the only ones who've ever experienced sexual assault and domestic violence. Men are going through the same thing. Let's be real.
Right.
1 in 6 men experience sexual assault and 1 in 7 men experience domestic violence. The numbers, they're the numbers for you. So it's happening. And those are all people who have reported, but how many men are afraid to even report?
I mean, they are. Because you look at the incarceration system. You have men being sexually assaulted by other men on a regular basis. A lot of these guys are locked up. They are incarcerated, be sexually assaulted, but they have wives and girlfriends on the outside. Don't you think he gonna open up to her and say, well, babe, I was sexually assaulted? He's not, because he is that pride, the shame, the guilt of going through that. And nobody should have to go through that, male or female.
That is so true. And it's really sad. I hope men very soon start coming out and sharing their stories. The more we share, the more you find safe spaces. Because I always say one thing for sure, my organization is looking for a man to come stand beside me. I do not mean in a relationship, but I do mean to come be a partner with me, because I'm not going to lie, I don't feel like I personally can assist a man. you can share your story, but as a woman, I may not fully understand. And it may be more comfortable for you to go share that with a man and go fully in detail who has experienced that before. And so I'm looking for a man. If you were interested, I am definitely here. You will have to go through the training process so that we can make sure you properly work with advocates, with survivors as an advocate. But I am definitely interested in hearing men come out more because it needs to be talked about. It needs to be said, especially in incarceration too.
Right, a lot of stuff need to be addressed. A lot of stuff need to be talked about. You know, when it comes, me and that, I want to talk about that. Let's talk about relationships. I want to talk about when you meet someone. I believe that everything should be put out on the table. And I don't speak from a man perspective, because I know guys, we get so caught up on, and we would never talk this. We would never talk, hey, sit down, get to know her. Well, we get so caught up in the appearance, and this messes up. But, you know, better to say, guys, when you talk to a woman, go to a place where you better sit down and talk about. Let's talk about everything. It's all about knowing each other's character. You want to know his character. He wants to know your character. I believe everything is out in the open. I had a couple on the show a couple of weeks ago, and before they actually got together, they talked about everything. They laid everything out on the table, and that's when you discern, and that's when y'all make a decision. Okay, what I'm willing to pursue this or not. See, we would never taught that back in the day. We was taught she looked good, he looked good, we get together, that was it. But we'll never sit down and talk about a lot of stuff. So I'm glad that people, when it comes to relationship, people are talking about a lot of things now. So I want to talk about the relationship. I want to talk about the communication part. When you meet someone, I'm like this. If I meet someone, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna either have a conversation over tea, coffee, just talk, conversation, because you want to know where the person's at. Because looks can be deceiving. And I'm just being honest. Because somebody may look good, but you don't know what they're dealing with behind closed doors.
That's very true.
You don't know what type of medication they be on or what trauma they be going through until you get into that door. You're like, oh, hell, I ain't signing for all that. I'm just being real and honest.
You're right about it. Right about it.
So you have single people that come and you coach. Do you ever talk about relationship with them, or they may tell you, hey, I'm going out with somebody, like you said, a friend, he went out with this young lady, and you told him what he needed to do and not he needed to do, and to heed to it. So do you help in that? Well, I know you help in that aspect also when it comes to the relationships, when they're dealing with it. Because you don't want to put nobody in your mess. That's just me. If you know you got issues, don't bring nobody else in your issues.
Please don't, because what do they say? 2 half people don't make a whole.
Right.
Y'all gonna cut each other down more. But I would say the conversations need to happen early, because you have to know whether or not they can deal with it. And let's be real, when you're a victim, it's not just a conversation, oh, I was a victim. Oh no, I'm a victim. I deal with these type of triggers. Please don't have this smell. Don't have this type of music because this might happen. I deal with these things. I deal with anxiety. I can't sleep at night. You have to have some really deep conversations. That was not a conversation I had when I was dating my first husband, my ex-husband. And we were watching a TV show, Law and Order, SVU. And it was so relatable. He looked back and I was just boo-hooing. And he didn't know what the hell was going on. He was like, what is wrong? And it took a minute. I had to kind of regain composure. And back then I didn't know half the stuff I know now. So when I say I have to regain composure, I just have to go through the full anxiety attack and then allow it to come back down and just cry. And when he finally asked, I had to tell him what happened. But now that I look back, that was something he should have known prior to then, because he needs to understand what I deal with. Now, it's not a huge conversation with me because I'm more so, I guess you say, in the limelight. So if you look at my Facebook, you know what I do. You know I'm gonna talk about it. I don't mind talking about it. So a lot of times they're comfortable asking me from the get-go, well, how did you even get in this? Oh, okay, now I understand. Well, how do you feel about this? And then that's when they're very comfortable, once they know what I'm doing. But the conversations have to happen earlier, and it can't be just that surface level conversation, because you don't want to get down the road and realize that you're with somebody who can't handle it. Not only that, but that's the perfect time to use discernment. What is the person's response to that? If this is a person who's like, oh, you'll be all right, or it builds character, anything like that, that seems like it's a trigger word for you, they could be your next predator and the next person who's going to be hurting you. So you might want to use that as a red flag to walk away.
Yeah, and I agree. Like I said, open communication. I remember this story. This preacher shared this story years ago when I was back at home in Alabama, and he was saying, he was sitting down talking to this couple, and before they got married, he was saying, okay, this girl, she has a lot of all this stuff going on. Well, you better deal with all that. The guy response was, you see how fine she is. He was more focused more on the physical, but he wasn't more focused on what's behind the physical.
Right.
And the guy was trying to get him to see the big picture. Okay, before you make this commitment to this labor, remember she has all this stuff going on in her life. Are you capable of handling that? He kept saying, you see how fine she is. And that would mess a lot of guys up. Some guys, they go off the body, they go off the hair, they go off all the makeup, and not looking at these red flags when this stuff comes up. And then when you get involved, which I never got involved with, or some lady with girls. Well, women, y'all got to take the back. Well, women, y'all look at the whole big picture. Y'all do. I got to give y'all credit for that. Y'all look at the whole big picture. Y'all read everything. Guys are just that one track minded where they just focus more on one thing. The outer appearance would never understand the character. Because y'all realize what's involved. Marriage could be involved. Children could be involved down the road. And that's something we want to be able to avoid all that when it comes to this stuff. So I do agree, having these conversations up front is important. The Bible says, confess your faults one to another, then pray. Even the Bible said, do not lie to your neighbor. So when we meet someone, we should be honest. Don't lie. And that's that manipulation. And I want to talk about that too. Being afraid to talk. You know, sometimes we walk around with eggshells. We scared to say what's on our mind. We scared to say what I'm going through because we walk around the eggshell because we don't want this person to leave. We're already judging ourselves already. You might want to get a mind does play tricks on us. So you come to her, okay, I tell her this, she's going to leave me. I know she's going to leave me. She's going to find somebody else better. I need to keep this to myself. So we already judging ourselves already, even before it comes out of our mouth. And you never know how that person gonna react, because if you respond, that means they ain't control. You react, that other person in control. But the judgment part, we quit to judge ourselves so bad instead of just get past the judgment on ourselves and just be honest with the person that was before us.
That's why I say when I get to coaching, I'm dealing with the after. I want you to, I go over 4 steps: is self-awareness, confidence, forgiveness, and accountability. The reason we go over self-awareness, because like you said, you're automatically judging yourself. What are these negative things that you have taken from this relationship that you carry with yourself every day? And you tell yourself, what are these thoughts that you tell yourself, I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not enough, or I don't deserve this? And even I still struggle with these, but these are the things we need to acknowledge, because we can't move forward to the relationship we want if we don't even believe we deserve that relationship. And that starts in our mindset. And then from being self-aware, you have to rebuild your confidence and really understand who you are, not who they told you who you are, not who your trauma says you are, not what your experiences say you are, but who are you as a person. Rebuild your confidence and learn you. Then you have to forgive. Forgiveness. And we always like to say forgiveness and forgive the other person. Forgiving the other person is important. But guess what? It's more important to forgive yourself. Because if you don't forgive yourself, you're not going to forgive the other person. And you can say, well, I don't blame myself. As a victim, I can guarantee you blame yourself, because the first thing we think is, well, what did I do to deserve this? It's my fault, or why did this happen to me? Or that's falling the blame on us. No, why are they the way they are? What have they experienced that they didn't deal with to help them get over it and start healing from it? So we have to learn to forgive ourselves so that we can start walking in forgiveness for others. The Bible does say, treat your neighbor as you treat yourself, but how can you treat your neighbor good if you don't know how to treat yourself? That starts within you first, because I can't treat you in a way I don't know how to treat myself. And then the last one, that's where that accountability is. Are you going to put forth the effort to take care of the first 3 steps that we went over? And if not, well, We need to ask ourselves, where are you stuck at? Why are you not willing to hold yourself accountable? Why do you not want to put forth this work so that you can get to that other side? It's hard, it's ugly, but it's worth it. And a lot of times when we're healing and going through this, we're not working towards to never feel this again. We're working towards healthy coping mechanisms so that when we're in these situations, we're not just running to drugs and alcohol. We're really turning to something that's going to actually help and have a better outcome in the future.
Yeah, and that's important. And I'm glad you brought that up too about the drugs and alcohol. We know a lot of times people turn to things to escape their reality.
Mm-hmm.
They turn to the drug, they turn to the alcohol. Even some just turn to sex just to escape their reality and to really challenge that. And I'm glad that you and me and others are doing this because it's time for a makeover. It's time. I'm not talking about an outer makeover. I'm not talking about I got to get new clothes and I got to work out. No, I'm gonna tell you this. You wear all the nice clothes and you still bleed on the inside.
Yep.
You can work out all you want. You still bleed on the inside. You can drive the nicest car and still be bleeding on the inside. You get the nicest, biggest house in Texas, and you still gonna bleed in the inside. We need to start taking responsibility for inner healing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's time. That's time out for being fake. Time because even the Bible tells you we deceive our own self. You're not fooling your neighbor. We fool our own self. I can tell you I'm okay all day long, but I know I'm not okay because we don't want to be honest with ourselves. Mm-hmm. So if I can't be honest with you, if I can't be honest with myself, I'm gonna be honest with you.
That's right.
So I'm doing more harm to you, and you don't even know what's going on. In a way, because I'm doing this harm to myself, I'm doing this harm to you, and that other person is not fair to the other person at all.
That's right, and we got to remember when we become victims, we kind of take it out on other people.
You do,
whether it be close relationships, friendships, the next relationship. I tell people if I didn't pick up anything else, I sure learned how to talk crazy to somebody. And that was something I had to just go work on. But like I said, when you feel like you've lost power in one area, you're going to search everywhere else to regain that power. And it's always found in an unhealthy way.
That's it. And I want to talk about self-wealth, loving ourselves. You know, that's a word that everybody started talking about, loving themselves. We were taught to love everything else. We were taught to love this person, that person, but was never learn how to love ourselves. We was never taught how, hey, have a mission statement for your life. What are your core values? See, and that's another thing, Sean, that I'm looking at now. We never learned this stuff in our life.
Right.
We hear mission statements on different organizations. What's wrong with having a mission statement for our own personal life? What's wrong with that? If you talk to somebody like that, or you make it seem like you're trying to be like God, the Bible said you are God, and the Bible say that. The Bible said we are God. The Bible said you're a king and you're a priest on earth. The word of God says stuff like this.
That you made in his image.
So you hear stuff like that, oh, you're not, but that's your problem. See, that's the mentality. We got to break this mentality that we've been passed on down from our generation. That's the problem. We got this sick mindset. And all this sick mindset, it affects the other generation behind us.
Right.
We was never taught to think for ourselves. We were never taught to do things. If you want to do something as a child, you can't do that. Or if you had dreams and aspirations, oh, that ain't real. That kind of stuff plays trauma too in our lives. Because think about it, when we were children, we had this wild imagination. We had this imagination, we could fly, do everything until somebody come along and tell you that's not real, you can't do that. So what happens? It kills. And then we worry about what people think. That's another thing to worry about what other folks think about us, or what the neighbors gonna say, what the people gonna say. That's another thing. We've been afraid. We worry about everybody's opinion too.
We were conditioned, though, not to say anything. And that's the biggest thing that we have to unlearn. We were conditioned as children to what happens in my house stays in my house. Don't be out there talking my business. And that's why so much assault took place in the house and no one knew about it, or it was swept under the rug because ain't nobody supposed to know what's going on. Just let, Uncle Jojo or whoever, just stay who they are, just stay away from him. And it's time to unlearn all of that, honey. I tell my baby, tell me everything. And I tell her, let me tell you something, your mom is crazy. Can't nobody do nothing to me. I have no fear when it comes to you as my child.
And I'm glad, and that's something that needs to be talked about too as well. Be able to talk about your children about anything. You know, growing up, we didn't have a lot of conversations growing up with our parents, but I'm seeing now more parents in this generation are having a conversation with their children now, which is very important. Explaining things to your kids. Because kids have an imagination. They ask things. And just like growing up, we never talk about, our parents never really talked about sex growing up at all, period. Yeah, I never heard in the household. You didn't know that until you may hear kids talking about pornography, the magazines, but we was never talked about, okay, this is what happened. If you have sex, this is what happened. So I'm glad that we're having parents that talk about these topics, because your children is supposedly come talk to you about anything. You know, growing up, we had fear talking about anything with our parents, because if you ask your parents a question, what they do? They get mad.
Oh, tell me about it. Are you too young to know, or don't worry about it?
But I think if we had these conversations growing up in our household, a lot of things could have been prevented. I believe that.
Oh, yes. Oh, I can definitely tell you. My daughter is 10.
Okay.
And during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I was just asking her some random questions, and she was able to just spit them back out to me. And the reason being is because I talked to her. Now, people used to always say something, oh, you're exposing her too early. Oh, well, why do you talk to her about that? Oh, okay, I'm exposing her. But why is my 10-year-old able to come home and tell me about her friend that's bisexual? No, I'm not exposing her. I'm preparing her with the right information so that she's not relying on her friends to teach her. Because let's be real, our generation relied on our friends. And if our friends told us sex was the best thing you could go have, and you should smoke, and you could do a little bit of this because it all feels good. No, let me talk to you and help you understand the truth and the reality of what's going on out here. Let's break it down and understand. For one, let's understand what sex is. You have to start there. Let's understand what our parts are called. These are boobs. I teach my daughter, these are boobs. This is a penis. You will not walk around and call it anything else, because at any moment somebody is doing something to you. I need you to tell them exactly what part that has been affected so that we can communicate it properly to the proper authority.
Right.
To know this information. And I'm thankful because a few weeks ago, my daughter has become so comfortable with me. She called me. So I've moved to Baton Rouge, and my daughter stays with her dad. Okay. And she called me and she was like, Mom, I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And she was like, these two boys at my school, I gave them your number. And I'm thinking, well, why? And she said, because them boys, when they go home, their daddy is hitting them and kicking them and stuff. And I know you help people in this area. So I gave them your number. That says a lot to me, that as my child, not only do you trust me to protect you, but you understand and trust me enough to know that I will protect your friends. And if I didn't create a safe space for you and I didn't leave that door open and talk to you, how would you know that?
Yeah, because people got to understand, I'm not a parent, but they don't understand parents, your job is to prepare your kids for life. Mm-hmm. It's not the school. See, that's the problem. They want to rely on the school is only to educate your kids when it comes to math, reading, whatever you want to call it. Their job is not to prepare your kids for life. The parent job is prepare them for life. You know, parents think, okay, I work, I pay the bill, put a roof over your head, buy you nice clothes, and that's it. Nah, you got to prepare your children for life. Because a lot of stuff, Sean, could be avoided if we would sit down like you're doing with your daughter to talk about a lot of stuff so they'll know the ins and outs of what's going on. Like you said, that's how our curiosity was going out. You know, we had friends that exposed us like drugs, alcohol, sex, you name, like I said, growing up, we was, you know, you speak and you watch pornography and look at the magazines and all this other stuff. And then what happened? Guys start getting into masturbation, where they're watching porn, masturbate, all that stuff. This stuff we never really talk about, but it's good that in the generation that we're able to talk about these things now and stop being ashamed, especially when it comes to religion. You know, just because you may be saved and serving God, you still talk about these things that's going on in life. Stop putting a blindfold on everything. or we don't talk about that in our house because we're serving the Lord. Okay, that's a problem. A lot of stuff still coming in.
Because your kids go to school. They're not at church with their friends at school are not always their church friends. You gotta prepare them for both worlds.
And they don't really talk about a lot of stuff because you didn't hear much sex about in church. They didn't really talk about that. Songs of Solomon talks about sex in Songs of Solomon. So a lot of this stuff was not really talked about. So that's what peculiar going around, we get into the different stuff because we became a victim to a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And is it our parents' fault? And no, it's stuff that their parents passed on to them. They passed on up, and now it's up to this generation to break that. And I believe it is being broken now because it has to be broken in order to make the generation behind us a whole lot better. And I do believe that.
I do too. And I think it's going to be, as the generations continue to grow, I think it's going to be better. I think, there's more people standing up willing to talk about it. The youth of now are very just, I guess, bad about it. I think I sound old saying that, but I'm going to go with my word anyway. Bad about it. They don't care. They don't really care about the repercussions of what's going to happen, but they will let you know they're not the ones to play with, and you will be addressed. Whether they're going to fight you or go get somebody to fight you, something's going to happen. And I absolutely am here for it because we need to teach our children to protect themselves by any means necessary, no matter who it is.
That's it. And don't be afraid to get help. That's another thing. Drop our pride, drop our ego. We want to be so prideful. We think we Superman and everything. No, drop your pride, drop your ego, and be humble with life. So get help. Parents, if you are a parent, teach your children how to cry for help. Your child should be able to come talk to you about, your child should come talk to you before anybody anyway. That's kind of sad that your child had to go out and talk to somebody instead of them talking to you. And then a lot of parents, some parents get mad, like, what are you telling them for? Because think about it. Your child trying to tell you something for the longest, you want to brush them off. I'm tired. I got to go to bed. But you gotta stop brushing kids off. They can tell you a lot of stuff. We gotta stop brushing each other off.
Yes.
That's another thing as adults, but we still want to brush everything off. Adults need help too. That's why God only gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. The Bible said be quick to hear and slow to speak. So a lot of times we're so quick to talk and slow to speak. And we miss everything.
Yes, that's what people were talking about, the memes, and they said every time there was a man crying, they turned him into a meme on social media. And I was like, that's really true. We're so busy trying to judge and talk about how somebody looks because they're crying and stuff. No, we need to listen to what it is they're truly going through. Because then what happens is when we sleep on people, you do end up with people like Kanye West, who is not really being heard or whatever he may be going through, who needs some true help. And they have had silent cries or cries that were just looked at as attention seekers on the internet, and nobody is really addressing that. Well, when do we start opening and creating a safe space for men? Everybody, I'm sorry, ladies, I'm a woman. I love y'all. I love me, but we are not the only victims. There needs to be a safe space for men, women, and children because they all deal with trauma early on and late in life.
Yeah, they do. And just because he's a guy, guys may never had a father in their life, and the father was around. He probably never taught them what it takes to be a man. You have a lot of guys, especially you have single mothers who have boys. I believe that the boy should be with his father. If he's present, you can't teach him how to be a man.
Right.
You can. And that's when a lot of boys become feminine acting and don't know how to stand up to be a man when they get older. So what they do, they look for another woman to take care of them and console and do all this stuff. But no, he was never really taught how to be a guy, never taught how to be a man, per se. He was just so can't keep coloring guys. And that's another thing too as well. Like, man of the responsibility, we got a lot of work to do in this generation. We have a lot of work to do in our society. To break. But is everybody gonna listen? No. I mean, some people do they want to do. Not gonna be able to save everybody. But if you reach somebody, that's enough said right there. So a lot of times we look for numbers. I got to get this big. No, it ain't all about the numbers. Even the Bible said if 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, he should be in the midst. Look at numbers. If it ain't all about big numbers and big crowds, if you reach somebody, That's enough said right there. That one somebody gonna reach somebody else, and that
Yep.
other person is gonna be a trickle effect. So the organization, how can people get in touch with the organization? How can they follow you on social media? Go ahead.
So I'm gonna use my little blurb, y'all. Tune in to Instagram. It is Speak Our Truth. We are actually getting ready for an exciting year in 2023. I have been working my behind off. Next year, we are going to focus more on lunch and learn so that we can have educational events. It's one thing to bring awareness, but it's also to understand the education behind awareness. Like, how is this affecting our community? How is this affecting mental health? So we're going to further these conversations next year. We're looking to put a retreat together, and then we're also going to finally start the peer support group. I am confident in saying we have a wonderful therapist who are going to lead us in group therapy, because it's more than just sometimes you need more than just going to the therapist. And if we be real, not everybody can afford a therapist. So if we could just try to get together in a group session, that'll be great. But y'all can find all that information at www.speakourtruth.org. Follow us on Instagram at Speak Our Truth. And if you ever need me, please don't hesitate to email me at info@speakourtruth.org.
Awesome stuff. Sean, I thank you for hanging out with me on tonight here on Walking This Way Impact Wars podcast. Hope what was said tonight will benefit someone in the near future. And they just clean up this mess. It's like a house, you know. If the house is a mess, what you gonna do? You gonna clean it up. You're gonna take it one room at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we should do our life. Take that one aspect of our life, one room at a time. Let's clean our life up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's clean our life up, become a better you. You know, you hear people say all the time, become a better version of yourself. It's easy to say, but you have to put in the work to do it as well.
Yes, put in the work.
That's it, guys. Put in the work. Think about it. You can lead a horse to water, can make the horse drink. So I want to ask this, Sean, how do you see, I ask this sometimes to the guests all the time. Proverbs talks about a good name. When it comes to your legacy, and I ain't asked this question in a while, how do you see your legacy after it's all said and done?
Oh, how do I see my legacy? You know what? I have never shared my big dream. When I leave this earth, I hope to have a full facility for rape victims where they don't have to worry about going into the hospitals, but there are trained people who can actually help them in the proper way that isn't going to make them feel re-victimized. I plan on having an organization that is not just here in Louisiana or in Texas, but it will be nationwide. I plan to change laws. That's my legacy. I plan to really get in there. Our court system needs help. Our law enforcement needs help because they don't have a clear understanding of sexual assault and how it affects people. They tend to re-victimize victims, and it's time for us to get in there and, like you said, clean up the mess. So when I see my legacy, it's crazy because this whole time I just said that I didn't really speak nothing on my other stuff that I want to one day do. But that is my legacy for the organization because that's my baby. It ain't ever going to go nowhere. It's going to continue to grow, but we are going to help women in ways that has never been heard of. We're going to make sure that we're there. I know you used this word earlier, but we're going to coddle our survivors because that's what they need more than anything.
And that's what's up. And that's what we're going to do is let's clean up the mess, ladies and gentlemen. Let's clean up the mess in our lives. Big shout out to Coach Shay in the comments. She said, hello, beautiful people.
Hey,
Big shout out to her as well. She's the co-host here on Walking This Way. She be with me on Tuesday nights. So let's clean up the mess, ladies and gentlemen. Let's clean up our lives one room at a time. Just like when you clean your house, you're not going to clean every area at one time. That's impossible. That's insane. You're going to take one area at a time. That's how we should take our life. Whatever your area, take that one area of your life at a time. Once you get that area cleaned up, then you can move on to the next area.
That's right.
When you get that done, you move on to the next area. So it's a process. So embrace this process. Get the help. Before we get out mentorship. You hear a lot of people talking about get mentors. So what's your views on mentorship? I know a lot of people trying to get mentors now.
They are needed. And listen, If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you have a little girl, my daughter was a part of Fly Girls. She hasn't been, but she's going back because she needs to be there. Fly Girls with Lauren K. Scott is an amazing mentorship. It's needed because children need to be taught what we were not taught to do. Get back to learning how to cook, how to run a business, how to do things how to balance, not a checkbook, but your finances.
Right. Right. Right.
To balance your finances and how to seek that help. So get a mentorship. I will also put this out there. Anytime you're looking for someone to come speak on sexual assault consent, I am available because I believe it does start young. I'm available to have those conversations. If you're a parent and you're not comfortable talking to your kid about things, call me. I'll do it. I've done it plenty of times. I will have the conversation, and you can be right in the room with us. But understand that you do have resources. I am all for mentoring. I'm all for making sure that we have the conversations and do it.
So also I got another comment section. Big shout out to my sister as well. She said, where exactly in the DFW area?
She is, I'm actually going to tag her right now, but she is in Fort Worth. I can't put a direct space because it depends on what type of event they're having or where they're going to go. But they actually go out and do things in the community. They have learned how to have businesses, how to use their creativity. Lauren is actually a part of the education. She was a part of the education system. So she's their advocate when it comes to schools, which is a big thing because a lot of times our teachers are stressed and our students are stressed. And there needs to be somebody in the middle who understands both.
Yeah, also I know it's always open up another avenue or something. The schools, let's talk about the school right quick. The teachers are stressed. The teachers have to deal with a lot of stuff. I believe, I'm not a parent. Parents got to help the teachers out too. When I say that, even though the teacher providing the education, they're not supposed to teach your kids about life because we'll have you deal with a lot of behavior now. Because a lot of kids cannot learn a lot of stuff if you got this one child holding up the classroom. And I always believe that the parents need to help the teachers out. A lot of teachers say they don't have any help when it comes to parenting, when it comes to the child, because the parents not involved, always working, kids raising themselves. But how can the child learn anything if the parents are not helping? I send my child to school and that's it. But the teachers can't do everything. So I believe they should go hand in hand with helping out the teachers. As well also that parents need to step in and help out the school teacher. The school teacher job could be more easy if the parents just take care of the part at home.
You know what? They say it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
That village is the school, the parents, the grandparents, the church community. That village requires everybody. You cannot put all the work on a school and then expect your child to be what you want them to be when they get home. That's not going to work because they only have so much. Not only that, but how is it that we send our kids to school expecting this, and at the same time you sent them with this attitude that can't nobody tell them what to do but you? So now you want the school to come out here and deal with your unruly child and try to teach them the whole time these kids out here trying to fight the teacher. That's not going to work. Everything about that situation, I'm not going to lie. If it was up to me, I'd probably say all the teachers just go quit. But see, while I might be okay trying to teach my child, I will say not every parent needs to be a teacher. But it's sometimes some of these parents need to see how their own kids are because these kids ain't no joke. They probably need a parent like mine because my parent was okay with coming to sit in the class with me if I can't act like I got some sense. And then we can see what we can do to make, not only that, be involved.
Got to.
Be involved. I don't understand, we deal with mass shootings and then we say things like, this took my head to a whole nother way. But we deal with things like mass shootings and say, oh, I didn't know he had this. Well, what are you doing that you don't know what is going on? Be more involved and you would know what's going on with your child. You can be active. You can go through. They used to go through our books. Did they go through your books and stuff when you were
all that stuff? It wasn't all that. And you got paddled in school. I remember that day. I remember back growing up when your mom said she was gonna get you, your butt be hot all day.
And trying to come up with a way to get past that whooping.
I know, right? You be hoping she forgot about it. Your butt be
Yes.
hot all day. You hope we need that. We need to bring that old landmark back. And I believe this too. A child ain't got no business closing your door in your house. They don't pay bills there. You need to keep that door open. That's just my belief. I believe that ain't no way a child should be closing your door where you paying the bills at, you paying the mortgage at. Nah, that's your kingdom. That's your domain. You the head honcho. You need to know what's going on, what they got, what they're doing. Find out what's going on. Be plugged in. Be more involved. I ain't gonna lie. When I have children, you know where they gonna be closing the door in my house.
I can't speak on that. I got a child and I had a 2-bedroom and she never went in her room. So I can't tell her to close the door that she's never in. She was always in the living room, but I would tell her to close my door, but she stayed in the living room. So I knew everything she was doing.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing because you got to know what's going on. Ain't no such thing that you should be closing the door. No, you need to know what's going on. Be plugged in. Communication is important. Communicate like you mentioned earlier. How your daughter's able to come talk to you. You know what? That started you being communicating with her. Just imagine you would listen to them folks and tell you, oh, don't be doing that to her. Don't be exposing her. Then you will count. Yeah, you're right. Before you know it, she'll be all kind of
wild and don't know what's going on. But not even, that's why I say like be involved, because if you're involved with your child, you know their mannerisms, you know when things aren't different. Now she went through a phase where she seemed real sneaky, and you know, every time I would come in the living room, she would be like, I love you, Mommy. And as soon as I caught on to it, she came to me one day and I instantly put my hand up at her forehead and I was like, something ain't right. This ain't who you are. And I was like, give me a minute. And I went and called her daddy and I was like, have you noticed this been happening at your house? And she was like, yeah. He said, yeah. I said, let's talk about this. Something ain't right about this. And he was like, okay. And we got on that page. Well, now it's war time. Bring me that phone. Bring me this because you already seem out of order. Surprise, now we both about to double team you and find out what's going on because it's off. And if we both seen it, then we gonna make some changes immediately. And sure enough, we went to the phone and we had to go ahead and fuss and cuss, but still, had we just been not aware of how she usually is, that just would have been like, oh, okay, well that's okay. She just wanna hug on me, Something ain't right. I talk to you every day, I pay attention to you. Let's find out and get to the bottom of this and go from there.
Man, that's and I respect that too. You know, you and your ex-husband not together. Y'all still putting the load of raising your child together. I respect that because a lot of times when people are divorced, they become bitter enemies.
Oh no, I can't.
They want to die. They want to blame the mother. They want to blame. But I respect that because very seldom hear that. Y'all still work together. Even though y'all not together, y'all still work together because y'all have a child involved. And I just want to let you know I respect that.
Thank you. I mean, don't get me wrong. We don't like each other. We would go off on each other real quick. And I'm like, oh, I can't stand you. But we really got to the point, if we don't really want each other, we don't want each other. And
right.
We got to do what's best for her because at the end of the day, we can't let her slide through the cracks.
Exactly.
And then now more with me just recently moving, we're more dependent on each other. Conversation is required. I have to talk to my child. I talk to my child on my days I go to school immediately after I come out of class. Before we go to bed, we're going to have a conversation at some point. But not only am I talking to you, I'm talking to your father on a regular basis because I need to understand what's going on. And if he sees anything that I need to address or if there's anything that he has to address, we still have to be a team, whether I can't stand him, whether he ugly, bald-headed, whatever. We still got to be a team in her face.
You got to. Somebody got to be there, though. Somewhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, put personal history beside. No, that's you know what our common goal is to make sure we raise a great child. That's the should be the common goal, and that's it. So I want to say I respect that about you because when you mentioned that. Because just to be able to talk, y'all still communicate. I respect that. You know, a lot, and even more people need to learn from that. You know, you got some people that's doing it. Every time you see stuff like that, they always dogging out the daddy, the mama dogging out the daddy, or the daddy dogging out the mom, and the kids listen to that stuff. That's not good either.
One thing I would say is me and my father may have not had the relationship I desired. Or me and even my mother. However, I cannot recall a time where my mother where my father and mother was dogging each other out in my face. I don't remember a time of my father just talking bad about her and things like that. So I was raised in a house where it wouldn't happen. Heck, I was raised in a house, I didn't see my father and his wife, my bonus mom, I didn't see them argue and fight. So it's not something I'm going to do in front of my daughter, because why would I want to take that? You know, if it wasn't done for me in that area, I could say I had peace. You know, I don't have to hear this nick and all this craziness. I already got the own craziness going on sideways. So I was able to take that part with me and then to leave the other tragedy where it was.
Yeah, and that's what's up right there. Accountability, still got to work together when you got something involved, and that's what it's all about as well. So we had a great conversation here tonight. We thank everybody for being in the comment section. We just have one last comment. It says, it's from my sister. She said, it starts at home, and it takes a village, and if they are willing to accept the help. Like you mentioned, it starts with take a village, and it really does. So teamwork make the dream work.
It takes a village if you ain't raised your child to be mean to the village. Because some of these parents got to take that accountability. Like, you have raised hell raisers. And we can't be the community, because some of us, we either going to knock them out, or some people are afraid of them.
Or worse yet, somebody going to put a bullet in them.
That too.
They'll protect themselves.
So that's stick our hell raisers.
Like I said, we got a lot of work to do, and that work starts with us. It don't start on the outside. It starts with here. We was all programmed. We was taught only to see, touch, hear, smell, and taste, but we was never taught how to live within. We were never taught that. So, you know, we have to change the inside. If we go biblical for a moment, everything started on the inside. It started on the outside. You have to reach the heart of man. So you have to reach it in here. Once we change this in here, the whole outer world, our whole world gonna change. So
that's true.
We got a lot of work to do, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight here on the podcast. So, Sean, one more time, plug in how people can get in contact with you. How can they get in contact with your organization when we get up there?
Yes, so www.speakourtruth.org is the organization to learn more about us. You can also donate. We take financial donations as well as items. That way we can always have stuff on hand to give back. We also can be found on Instagram under Speak Our Truth. And if you ever need me, don't hesitate to email me at info@speakourtruth.org.
Awesome stuff. I appreciate you taking time out on the short notice. Once again, big shout out to Coach She for setting up the interview as well. Awesome time, awesome study. Before we get off the air, you know, we always say, always love yourself. Take your favorite drink tonight, whatever you drink. Look yourself in the mirror. Tell yourself I love you. Tell yourself I got your back. Tell yourself that you're fearfully wonderfully made. Tell yourself that you're going to succeed. Tell yourself you already achieved. And tell yourself that you are the great I am. And by the way, remember the graveyard. Everybody had one thing in common. They thought they had tomorrow. Let's live life like it's our last. Party like a rock star, but do it in a positive way. I also got some upcoming shows next week. We're going to be back here on Walking This Way's Impact Voice on Tuesday, October 18, 2022. We got Joseph B. Roberts. He's the author of the book, Blessed in the Streets. He's going to be on here next Tuesday night. And I also got another episode, Wednesday, October 19th. It's the King's Mentality. We got with George P. Bulski from Metal Association. And we got the Godfather of Fashion, Mr. U. He's going to be on King's Mentality. So them the upcoming shows that we got taking place next Tuesday and next Wednesday. So it's been a great concert we've been having here in the month of October. Great guests here on the show. A lot of great feedback, a lot of great people doing extraordinary things. Like we said, extraordinary men and women who are doing extraordinary things. And of course, when you're doing extraordinary things, keep doing what you're doing. I give you your roses. A lot of times people give you roses till you're dead and gone. But give them folks their roses while they're alive today. Appreciate them. Let them know you appreciate the work that they're doing. And like I said, I want everybody to have a great night. Enjoy your night. Remember, clean up one room at a time. When I say, you may think about, we talking about a house? No, in here. Clean up that one room at a time in here. And once you clean up that one room, you move on to the next room. Then you move on to the next room. Before you know it, everything's sparkling, shining, smelling good like bleach. So y'all have a great night, everybody. See y'all next week here on Walking This Wave Impact Voice Podcast.